Welcome to Game Soup. It's a game design podcast where we throw ideas in a pot and see what's cooking. I'm Chloe Montgomery, and I'm joined as ever by.
Taylor Dice. Oh, you're back to the old format where I have to say my own name.
Yeah, I don't know where I just kind of went on autopilot there. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, no, it happens. We tried to drop the name saying thing because I think I was just like, it puts me in a spot where I don't know how to go into a conversation.
Hey.
But no, let's keep rolling. How are you doing, Chloe?
I'm good. I'm extremely spacey today, which you can tell by the opening of this podcast. So let's see if I produced anything of quality.
I can also tell by the almost nearly 10 minutes we spent chatting pre-recording for what is usually like a 2-minute check-in.
Wow.
I have sent a game to print.
Nice. Tell us about it, Taylor.
I think on the last episode, I can't remember if I talked about. I think I talked about an idea for a print thing I had after the Dragon Meat 2. Maybe I just alluded to it. I'll recap it entirely if I didn't say anything on the last podcast because I can't remember what I said.
And if not, skip 30 seconds.
Well, I am basically virtually out of copies of Out of the Fold, which has actually sold quite well since I printed it, in last September. I think has a very unique hook, and I thought about reprinting it. And also, I was after Dragon Meat 2, I was basically nearly out of To Embrace a Swamp Creature, which got me in this mind of ooh, that and Psycho Dungeon are my only two games with spines that I sell at cons. And they to some extent sell a bit better, and also they're things that retailers will buy off you at the end of a con, which they won't do for zines usually, with some exceptions.
Yeah.
So I was it'd be good to have before UK Games Expo another thing with a spine, but I definitely don't have enough time to write a new game in there. Something like Terminal is actually very expensive to reprint, so it probably won't be reprinted. And I had the thought almost, is there any zine I have at the moment that could actually be a spine book if it was just printed differently? Is there anything which is pushing the limits of how much a staple-bound zine can be?
Yeah.
And there kind of wasn't, but it did get me thinking of an idea I'd have before of doing a collection where it was not framed as an anthology outright, in a way. A lot of anthologies and TTRPGs are a blank guide to this, or an anthology. They're specifically sold as almost a collection of games.
And 5 cool games about robots.
Yeah, which is totally fine. I'm not saying this is a criticism, to be clear, but I was wondering, it got me, I guess, thinking about backups in comic books, or the way short story collections are often given almost a lead short story. So I had this idea of doing a reprint, which I've sent to print now, because I ended up putting it together basically in a week, which is called Out of the Fold and Other Games. So it is a collection of Out of the Fold and 3 other games of mine that were out of print and that are played with just a deck of cards. So I've got Out of the Fold, which is the GM-less magical thriller where you're escaping the secret society who taught you everything you know, which we did a lot of development on this podcast. It's also got one of my earliest games, Save Our Stalls, which is a basically zero prep heist game. It's a hack of Stealing the Throne by Nick Bate, about being a crew of thieves breaking into hell to steal back the souls they sold to a dark power. As a solo game, I did an Illustrator's Guide to the Dreamplands, which is a solo journaling and sketching game. And then the other thing I did for it is I've done a second edition of one of my old games where I've refocused it around a bit more around cards, streamlining it, making it a bit more focused on collaborative world building. So if you listen to the podcast and know the game I did called 30 Foes or Once Again We Are Defeated, I've got a new version in Out of the Fold and Other Games just called Once Again We Are Defeated, which removes the built-in setting element, because I think that made the game harder to pitch, and leans that more towards just collaborative storytelling. Removes any of the mechanics that didn't exclusively use cards, because that fit the gimmick of the collection better. and then also did some reorderings around like the structure of play just to reduce some cognitive load. So the new pitch for this game is it is a narrative map making game about dangerous outsiders protecting a village from an oncoming army. So I am really excited with this collection.
It sounds cool. I will probably pick it up from you because I tend to buy lots of zines and then not read them. But then if it is like a proper, like, not hardback, but like soft cover book, I'm more likely to read it.
Yeah, I think this is a thing I'm thinking and hoping that being able to say like pitch a game as just like it's out of the fold, or pitch one of the games in the collection if it's specific to someone, will mean I sell this at a similar frequency to how I sell bigger games, but
Yeah.
also be showing off maybe more of what I think is like the best edge of my design. I think if I think of some of the games I'm most proud of, like Psycho Dungeon is probably up there. Transgender Deathmatch Legend is up there, but I feel like I struggled with selling it. But Out of the Fold is definitely up there, and a lot of the smaller games, like zines are maybe a harder sell. I'm also hoping this could be something. I don't know. If this is a format that works at this convention, is probably what I'd be looking at for the next thing I crowdfund. Like I might end up pitching, say, a collection of all of the games I've done that are built around playing with music. Just some kind of thematic link, soft cover stuff. I also think, in sort of international times or whatever, people who maybe bought a lot of zines
Yeah, with shipping
internationally
costs
might
being
start
so high,
wanting.
you'd rather buy one good thing than lots of small things with lots of shipping costs.
Like, I think it's an annoying sort of art versus commerce thing where I do have to sort of think about like what is the format of my work in terms of like what will get me a better sort of like mark up and make stuff more profitable so that I have money to live, and also like
Yeah.
be able to make more exciting stuff. And the format of that I think does lean towards like bigger books, at least slightly bigger books. I don't think I'm ever going to be a big hardcover maker, but like I do think, putting out more soft covers is in the long run probably like better financially for me. But I think doing this collection format, if it's something that appeals to audiences, just I don't know. I think it represents maybe what could be potentially a nice like splitting of difference where I still get to make the stuff I'm making, but selling in a format that's going to be maybe more like commercial.
Yeah. It's like
Yeah, I don't
RRD
know.
has the one-page collections,
Yeah,
which they've got like six of
which of
now or
course the
some
thing
shit.
because
So
you can't like sell fucking
you
one
can't
page
sell a single
games
sheet of
to
paper.
shops.
No.
But like those, yeah, they work in a format. So I don't know. I am feeling the most positive about my game design stuff I have this year. I've enjoyed writing this new version of Once Again We Are Defeated. It feels like it represents like a nice place of where I'm at in game design. I've like finished playtest ready drafts of two games, The Gallant and The Virtuous, which we talked about on this podcast, and then I'm
Yeah.
with the Damned, which is a game about like being a band who have just made a deal with the devil, setting off on a tour. And yeah, I don't know. I'm excited a lot about what kind of stuff to figure out. I'm probably going to open a Patreon soon. And
I think you've
yeah.
been saying that for
Oh,
about 3 months now.
I am, but I'm closer to it. To be fair, no, I've been saying it's always been getting sooner.
Yeah.
It's never been high on my list so far, but I've sort of thought like it's probably a better move for where I'm at a designer at the moment to try and build something a bit more sustainable or whatever. Oh yeah, while I'm just like congratulating myself, I'll also say if you are in Leicester on the 17th and you get down to Leicester Gallery, there's a mini zine fair there where I'll be selling some stuff. I'll have this new Out of the Fold collection.
Notably not a zine anymore.
Not a zine, got some spine. It's got some spine to it now. You can wedge that in next to your other paperbacks. I've got a new logo because I ordered a stamp as well. It's exciting times. Everything's happening for Kayla. Do you have any game ideas to pitch me?
Like, no, Chloe, you don't even get to talk about what you've been doing. Fuck you. We're
I
going
thought,
into
wait,
game
I
soup.
asked you, do you want to, no, we can go, do you want to talk about some stuff? Because we talked a bit off air about some con prep
Yeah,
you've
so I
done.
mean, this last week for game stuff, I've been prepping for con because it's kind of well, it is our first con without the support of the Indie League. So we've spent like 50 quid on chairs and things for helping us get stuff into the con hall. And I've been putting together a little like price list thing because who is it? That did that one popular podcast. It's like MacGuffin and Co. They did like the
Yeah,
Magnus Archives or something. I don't know, dude.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, Johnny and Sasha, I think, have like a menu list, which is
Yeah,
cool.
so they have a little menu list in a frame. So we made one like that, that it looks like it's from a little diner. Because we're like trying to lend the brand into sort of like, oh yeah, it's freshly made games because we make biscuits. Yay.
Yeah, that's cute. You make biscuits, you have a soup podcast.
Yeah. It makes sense.
Biscuits
It's
and
a through
soup.
line. Um
Yeah, I've seen the design. Chloe sent it to me off pod. It's cute. And it also reminded me of like, oh god, I should sort out a menu or price list too.
uh
I don't know. Have you been working on anything fun creatively, or have you been more focused on
I
the on the con?
Yeah, I wrote about a page's worth of text for a thing we did last week on the pod, the Supermax Prison
Oh,
Escape one, the photocopier one.
yeah, you sent me that. That looked very cool.
So
Do
I
you
had
want to
about
talk
two
about?
hours. Yeah, I had about 2 hours worth of inspiration, and I used it on that. Because it comes in bursts, you know how it is.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And yeah, I think that could be like a cool pamphlet thing. That
I
what
laughed because I thought of a joke that I don't want to say on the podcast, so you can ask me off air.
phenomenal. Uh, yeah, so I
But tell
think
us about your
I
bursts.
think that the Supermax game could be like a cool first 100 customers buy a game get a free like one pager sort of thing, or like it's going to be
Ooh.
like a pamphlet like folded up bit of paper. I think
Yeah, I
um
think if you can get it in a pamphlet form, for some reason, I do think they look at least better on stalls and stuff than
a single
flat
sheet
one
of paper.
pages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
So
know
is the
if
folk?
it'll get finished, but I mean the idea's there. If not, it'll just go on the Game Super Patreon. uh
Mm. I also think to say, like, I don't know. I think what I realized with some of the recent stuff I've done is like stuff can be finished and unfinished for ages, and then you
yeah.
can just come back around to it, and the work's never entirely wasted. Like, um, yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. I had an idea for a game, which
Go
maybe
on.
I'll make at some point, but I wanted to at least pitch it on this podcast. Um, it's a sports game,
All right.
which I once did a bit of work on, and then of a mechanic for how basically I thought like would be a fun way of doing football. And I abandoned it because the more I thought of the game, the more I was like, I can't think of any unique hook on this that isn't hewing too close to other games that already exist to mention the names. But
I
what I've
can't think
now
of a
thought of it as
single
is
game
a
that is explicitly about football, other than like Subitio, which is a
no, I
board
mean
game.
I meant more like, oh, what would be the hook of this? And then I'm like, oh, I guess it would be like you're members of a sports team. And then I'm like, yeah, but I feel like because it would not be football specifically, it would have been a fantasy equivalent. I was like, oh, it feels like it will hew a bit too close to tournament arc in at least
Yeah,
what
my
it's like
Lyra's
mapping
arm on the phone.
narratively. Yeah. Which just felt weird. And then also I was like, I don't necessarily have an idea. But like at one point I was like, oh, maybe this could just be some dice rules I could give you guys as an extra time thing. But I didn't even really have it that far. But then I read a book the other month, which was called Glorious Exploits. It was set in ancient Sycharis around like Sicily, and featured these two sort of like layabouts trying to put on a play with the imprisoned Athenians, who are yeah, prisoners there like in the middle of like war and stuff.
Right.
Um, and that got me also thinking. I guess I then also watched like another documentary about like a sports team or something, and I had the idea of maybe this is a management angle where you are. My current pitch is something along the lines of say like you are in the Greek underworld and you are managers trying to put together a new underdog sports team featuring some like, undead souls from Asphodel to compete in a sports league that is ordinarily ran by like fucking gods and demigods and heroes. Like
Yeah.
you're trying to be the underdogs and it's a bit of a sort of sports management game. You're the management team mainly. You're doing training and you're doing like fucking auditions and stuff, as well as then some like tactics. And I guess it's about going against the institutions of sport in some way and,
Yeah.
who
So
gets
like
to participate in sport.
you play as Hades, or Hades is team manager,
Well, I
and
imagine in this case you're more like some lower level gods who are doing
oh,
this, but
okay.
yes.
Um, and you're trying to break into this god league.
Yeah. You're just like,
Yeah.
we paid the entry fees, we've got this team, but this team is like fucking undead, like chumps, like people who had sort of just condemned to the fields,
Yeah, you've got like a Spartan with a broken leg. He's your best player.
You're trying to, yeah, like upturn that. And yeah, then you play out this sort of sporting story, which I think the thing I'm like, maybe I'll write this, maybe I won't, is also I think I couldn't write this without being very cynical. Because I think the ending of the game is you do very successfully, and then the league conspires to like get you kicked out or disqualified or screw you over. They're like, we don't. This is a nice underdog story when you got far, but you're not supposed to win, and we will use all our power to stop that.
No, see, I like that because it's like it. I think you play it as a management sim, but then you have like these story beats that are like part of the thing. So it's like Act One, you're putting together your team. Act Two, you're
Yeah.
like rising through the ranks. But like through these things, you have like a roll table or a deck of cards list or something, and it's like, okay, so this has happened. One of your players got injured, or Hermes has come down with a message saying, "Guys, you need to knock this off." Like, what do you do about this?
Yeah.
Like, do you change your team around? Do you hire some new guys? It's like, how much of your underdogs are you going to stick with before,
Yeah.
like,
I think
oh
this has
well,
to
now I'm grabbing some guys from the
have.
fields of Asphodel who are better at football, but they're not quite my guys, you know?
Yeah. I think this game, I was going to say, has to have a GM.
Yeah,
I think, like, there's management and then there's, like, the GM who also will play all the other teams as well as, like, being kind of the league and stuff. And I think the game would have to have a lot of GM guidance for how, like, I guess a campaign progresses or like a shrunk version to do this as a one shot. I think it's very scene heavy because
yeah.
I think like you want to be like independent characters, not just the nebulous
Yeah, I think one of
amorphous
you
blob
is
of
like the
management.
manager, one of is the coach. Like, it's like Ted
Yeah.
Lasso, but like Olympian.
Bad News Bears, plenty of like those things, like even a
Yeah,
bit of Moneyball, like that kind of stuff. Um yeah, and I think you are getting scenes where you're also talking to players who are NPCs, but like
yeah,
the point is you want to get to care about these players because at the end they're going to be screwed over. And I think it's a game that then has some flexibility of like, what do you do in response to being screwed over?
yeah. It's like, can you keep trying,
In
or are you just going to give up,
Yeah,
or whatever?
or like
Like,
in the book I read, it's once the play gets like quite violently shut down, and the Sigaries go, yeah, we're just going to condemn the remaining Athenian prisoners to death. They hatch a plot to be like to try and free them, and I'm like, is it that? Is it going like, okay, but like my guys worked hard, I'm getting them out of Asphodel, and the game then has to almost become something else at the end, and there's guidance about doing that. Is it that you are, you know, end up like, is the ending that you found a counter sports league which is more independent? I think that's why I'm like, the struggle I would have with this game is my maybe cynicism. I think it would be very difficult, not difficult, but it would be on
I
my
think you've got to
mind
bring that to
right
it though. Like it's
yeah,
about
I mean, I think it would have to be that.
yeah, it's about like climbing the leagues, but it's like, oh, FIFA doesn't want some shithole pub team to be in the Premier League, so fuck off.
Yeah, I mean, more than that, I think the thing that would be on my mind as I wrote it would be about the fact that like the FA and loads of other bodies just
They're
fucking
all
ban
corrupt, yeah.
trans women from all sports.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, yeah.
there's like it's very hard for me not to look at that and go like, could this narrative could absolutely map onto being like a rising grassroots football league in fucking modern day Britain that is accepting a lot of trans women and is getting to the top of like this grassroots thing they're in, and then the FA way above says, "Oh, actually, no, these fuckers can't play.
Yeah.
These freaks don't get to run the field." Like, I think to some extent that's what the ending's about. And my cynicism there is the problem of like, I don't think the game I'm writing is one where you get to overturn the fucking Super Olympian League.
No, I
I
don't
think
think
it's
you
one where
get
you get
to
to
like
decide what happens when they do screw you over. Whether
yeah,
it's
it's
like
like, do I
you
go on
go
to be a
fuck
coach?
you,
Do I just
make your
quit?
own thing.
Whatever.
Yeah, do you do your own thing? Do you all sort of wash out and it's like a quite bleak ending? Is there something about like escaping, like trying to like at least help your guys, basically?
Yeah.
I think it's a game, if I wrote it and wrote it well, it would be good. But it would have a bleakness to it.
Yeah, no, I think
But
that
I don't
that's
know. I think it would have to be about what people get out of sport that isn't glory.
yeah.
That isn't the idea of you're ever going to be the top, but like of the connection you have, and it would in some way be a real plight to be like it's important that people are able to play sport, and if that means telling every federation in the world fuck off and doing it on the grass, ignoring the no ball game signs, like maybe that's all that can be done. Maybe that's not enough because the world is so unfair, but like maybe that can be meaningful to you. Should I tell you about the mechanic I had, by the way? Because I realize
I'll
I've not
go on
talked
if
about
you've
any
got
of
an
that.
actual mechanic. Go on.
Well, the mechanic, I think, I heard someone say once, and this is a statement I do believe in, that football, what our American listeners may call soccer, I believe what our Australian listeners would also call soccer, because they have their own football as well.
Yeah, they have
Canadians
AFL.
too, probably. I'm not sure about the Irish, even though like Gaelic is its own form. I think football is still football.
You're getting in the weeds here, honey.
I am. Someone said the thing about football is it's like the most excitement per goal of a sport. Like there is such build up and then there is such excitement for an individual scored point. That is not the case in basketball. A sport, say, I find really fun and exciting to watch, but each time someone scores, that's not the same emotional high of football because football is way longer between goals, you know?
Yeah, you get maybe 2 or 3 goals in 90 minutes, whereas basketball, in my understanding, it's like a ball goes through a hoop every 2 to 3 minutes.
Yeah, the scores in basketball are going to end in like the 30s, 40s, or so on.
Yeah.
It's freak occurrences if you get to a double digit score in football. So
Yeah.
like, it's all about the build up and then like the emotional release. And so I guess I had this idea of like you get a pool of dice and you are rolling that pool of dice trying to get the highest result on the dice. I don't know if the pool is like I don't think it's D6s because that's too easy.
Yeah.
When I wrote this originally, I was like D20s. You roll a pool of D20s and you're trying to get the 20. If you get the 20, you score a goal. But how many you have to keep re-rolling, and then like how many times you re-roll until you get the 20 or give up for this half determine like the chances your opponent gets against you.
Yeah.
So it's like you play it out in 2 halves. I think actually I was thinking looking back at the rules again, I was like maybe it's sort of an opposing big dice roll where it's like, you know, both who can get to the critical in the shortest number of rolls,
Yeah.
as well as then all of the chances that creates. Like, oh, you took 8 rolls to do this, you did score the goal, but like 2 of your players got like fouled someone else, you're 1 foul away from getting a player sent off, which would take away a dice from your pool, and also you gave them a penalty. which would have its own like little mechanic there. Versus then you could say at 5, where all it is like they've just got where like you've not scored yet. If you scored here, but maybe give up a penalty or something, or is it like, but you could stop rolling at 5 even if you didn't score with the base of like, I'm not gonna score in this round, in this half, but like I'm not giving you any opportunities.
Yeah, it's about pushing your luck.
Yeah. I think I'd need to do some like writing out. I don't think I explained that very well there, but yeah, a big dice pool which is almost imploding. It's like how many rolls until you get the score is what I would be looking at as some kind of thing. And then so much of this would then have to be GM advice and scene structure, and I'd need to figure out what kind of rolling you're doing otherwise in scenes and stuff. But I don't know, it's an idea that's on my mind, and I could see it being something I have a lot of fun exploring, which is really funny to do as a woman who will never get to play sports again. That was about disability, by the way. No, that wasn't a...
They have wheelchairs leagues.
Yes, but my problem is fatigue.
Well, yeah, you got me there.
So it's if it was just about pain, I could do exercise, but I don't think I'd ever play in sports again, which is fine. But also, I don't know, maybe that's why I should write this game. Isn't that the point of what we're all doing here? To dream, perchance to live?
Thank you for listening to Game Soup.
Oh, thank God, I was worried you weren't going to say it.